My name is Hannah and this is my no-buy year. You might have noticed that I switched out the creepy ceramic mask that was hanging on the wall right there. It is one of my favorite pieces of art. I bought it in Argentina when I went to Buenos Aires to study tango. It's still there, it's just hanging a little bit higher. I had to move it because the camera kept focusing on it because it thought it was a face. I mean, it is a face, but the past several videos, sometimes when I would leave the frame or bend down to pick something up if I dropped it, while I was out of frame, the camera would focus on that face, and then when I came back into frame, it would take like 2 or 3 minutes before the camera realized that I was the actual person. And I also had to move the all-male poets party over a little bit, so Louis McNeice is no longer in frame. It's just Elliot, Auden, Ted Hughes, and Steven Spender at the party. Poor Louis McNeice. I have a small collection of favorites to share with you this month. Needless to say, because this is my no-buy year, everything that is a favorite is something that has been in my collection for a long time. So part of the reason that I'm doing this kind of video during my no-buy year is to make the point that favorites don't have to be brand new things. Traditionally, a favorites video on YouTube is a YouTuber sharing out of all of the things that he or she has tried that were new in the previous month, which were his or her favorites. And that requires the trying of so many new things over the course of a month. And I have been trying only a very few new things over the course of the month, and those are just things that I have little samples of that I had never opened or that were sent to me in a package when I replaced a staple item. So I do have one thing in my favorites, two things actually. One's a kind of a food item that I had never tried before that I stumbled upon organically during this month. But the rest of the things are things that have been in my collection for a long time. When it comes time to film my favorites video, I've really been enjoying asking myself what were my favorite things, because it's always new things, new favorites, but they're newly my favorites during that month because I've been working really hard on shopping my stash and rotating my collection and rediscovering that some of my old favorites are my new favorites again. So let's get into the meat of the video. I'm gonna start with my food type favorite because it's something I'm so excited about, and it's this. Looks like a beer, doesn't it? It tastes like a beer too. I love beer, but I almost never eat gluten. And when I say almost never, I mean maybe twice a year at a really fancy dinner. Maybe I'll eat part of a glutinous dessert on those occasions, and then I will feel bad. I don't have celiac disease, but it really makes my stomach hurt. It makes it so I can't sleep. It makes me break out. And I also think for me it has long-term ill effects on my gut microbiome. So I avoid gluten assiduously, and that means that I don't drink real beer. Now, gluten-free beer has gotten pretty good, but alcohol is also something that I don't consume all that regularly anymore. I do love a great glass of wine and I do love a gluten-free beer, but by paying very close attention over time, I've learned that drinking alcohol has a really negative effect on the quality of my sleep, which is something I care a lot about, especially because I hate being unproductive. And it also has a negative effect on my mood over the course of the week. If I have a couple of days in a row where I indulge in a glass or two of wine, by the end of the week, I'm pretty much a crabby bitch. I do drink, but usually just socially and usually not all that much. And what I miss is that feeling of coming home after a long day and pouring a glass of wine or cracking open a beer, the flavor, the indulgence. That way of using alcohol is something that I don't really do anymore. Enter this business. It's so effing amazing. This is water. It's called Hops Water. Hop water? So the brand is called Hops. It's like H2OPS. Hops Water. H2O. Ha. 2O. It's water that has been flavored with hops. It's sparkling water. And as you can tell, it's bottled in a beer bottle, and it is exactly like drinking a beer, except that it's water. And it tastes so much better than all of those awful non-alcoholic beers that are usually packed with sugar, so they're really bad for you. I would never use non-alcoholic beer as a replacement for the experience of having a drink. But this, it's like drinking a Perrier. Like, that's the effect that it has on your system. There are no calories in it, there are no carbs, there's no sodium, no protein, no nothing. It's just water. It's like a flavored water. It's like a liqueur. But the flavor is the flavor of beer. It's the flavor of a hoppy beer. It's the flavor of an IPA. So it's that kind of bitter, floral, aromatic taste. And the sensation, because it's bubbly and because it's in a bottle like this, so mimics the sensation of drinking a beer. The first time that I cracked one open and took a sip of it, I was like on the floor. I couldn't believe it. It's a little bit expensive. I think it's $7 for a 4-pack. So it's not like I can just be drinking them all the time the way that I drink cans of sparkling water. I can indulge in this the way that I used to indulge in beer when I did drink beer, which is to buy a 4-pack of a nice beer, and then over the course of 1 or 2 weeks, when I felt like I really wanted it, crack one open and indulge. And it's just like that, except that it's water. The genius of this, the absolute genius. I got it at Whole Foods. If this is the kind of thing you'd be into, check it out. Not sponsored, by the way. Definitely not sponsored. This is the favorite from early in the month. This was something I shopped my stash for during the first half of the month. It's the Ardency in Modster Supercharged eyeliner, and it's in the color gold. And this is just something I'd had in my collection for a long time and never really gotten that much use out of. When I was reaching for an eyeliner, I would just pass over it and I would go for a brown or a black, something that I was more comfortable with. Making myself use this really opened up new vistas of eyelining for me. And it's partly the fact that it's got a little bit of shimmer to it because it is gold, but it's also just the color. It's the fact that it's not a deep brown, but it's sort of like a golden brown. So it darkens the lash line and it darkens the waterline, but without lining my eyes in such an artificially dark way as a dark brown or a black. So it gives just kind of a softer lined effect. And it may sound ridiculous to confess that I hadn't really stumbled across that or understood the power of that effect until now in my makeup life, but I hadn't. And I really enjoyed using this, and I continue to reach for it. Even though it was earlier in the month, it's definitely a May favorite. Another sort of simple favorite for May was the Glossy A lip gloss, and I didn't officially shop my stash for this, but this is something that partway through the month I was just like, this is such a good lip gloss, and it's been kind of in the back of my drawer, so I pulled it out and I started taking it around with me in my purse and just using it a lot. I even wore it in a photo shoot one Friday just by itself over my natural lips, and it came out beautifully in the photos. It's so good. It's really thick, so it makes your lips look really wet. Like, I'm wearing a lip gloss right now. It's kind of worn off, but you know, it has like a little bit of a glossy or shimmery effect. I'm wearing this fairy floss, which is the Colourpop gloss. Actually, I'm going to reapply it. So that's like an opaque pigmented gloss, Colourpop fairy floss. So it's not that it doesn't look glossy, it's just that it's kind of more about the color, whereas this is like a lacquer on your lips. However, it doesn't stick to itself really very much, meaning that it's pleasant to wear. It's just beautifully designed. There's also something beautiful about its simplicity. So it's like the simplest, cleanest, most basic, but highest performing lip gloss. This is something that I could possibly finish this year if I continue to use it in the way that I used it in the month of May. Glossy has been very hit or miss for me. I've tried almost everything from Glossy A. If you want to know, there are so many Glossy A review videos on YouTube, so I don't feel like I need to add to that. But if for some reason you would particularly like to see me review everything I've ever tried from Glossy A, definitely let me know. I would be more than happy to do it. I find it a really interesting and very, very, very hit or miss brand. That same photo shoot in which I wore the Glossy A gloss and loved it, I was going through the photos. If you don't know, I make clothes for a living. I make handmade clothes for Argentine tango dancers, and I also model the clothes. So we do a shoot every Friday. We take pictures of the clothes that I made during the previous week. So I was going through, I actually wasn't going through directly after the shoot. I was going through them this week. I was like, what is on my cheeks? What is on my cheeks? I was trying so hard to remember what I had worn because my cheeks in these photos, two things. One, the most gorgeous color that I definitely had not realized at the time how good it looked on my skin tone. The most gorgeous flush of color, and then a mirror finish, like glossy highlight on top of that. And I was like, what were those products? And I scoured my brain and I looked at my collection and I remembered what they were. And they're what I'm wearing now. I don't know if the camera is gonna do the same thing that our studio lighting photo shoot camera at work does, but I'll tell you what the products are. One of them is this blush from the NARS palette that I shopped my stash for. It's called Me First. It's this one right here. I had messed around with that blush. It's kind of the easiest one in the palette for me to wear, so it's not like I hadn't worn it before, but every time I reached for it, I kind of felt like it's so similar to Orgasm that it wasn't that special. Every time I put my brush into it, I was like, I might as well just be using my little NARS Orgasm. You know, I kind of wished that there had been something else in this palette besides that, because in my delusional mind, I was sort of thinking of it as an Orgasm dupe. It wasn't until I saw it on my cheeks in the pictures that I realized it was something super special. And then when I came home, I swatched it next to Orgasm and they're totally different. I mean, they're totally different. Like Orgasm's peach, like pink, and this is peach, like a coral peach. They look even more different on camera. There's Me First and there's Orgasm. Me First and Orgasm. And then the highlighter that I wore on top of it for that photo shoot and that I'm wearing on top of it now is the one from this Colourpop palette. It's the Double Play palette. And I shopped my stash for this way at the beginning of the year. Some of you may remember. The blush bronzer was very orange on me, and the highlighter is absolutely, it's like a mirror. It is like a mirror. But honestly, it's kind of like a peachy pink mirror. It definitely has a little bit of pigment to it. And so I've been enjoying sometimes using it and not using a blush at all, because it does add some glowy peachiness to my cheeks, nose, and chin. I've just re-fallen in love with everything about that highlighter this month. My last favorite is something that was new to me this month because it was a Sephora Point Perk. And when I reordered my Drunk Elephant Sea Firma When I reordered my Sea Firma Day Serum, my Drunk Elephant Day Serum, I decided to try this out. It's a texturizing spray, and I'm interested in collecting texturizing sprays because the only texturizing spray, real texturizing spray that I had in my collection was the Dirty Spray, and I didn't make texturizing spray a category at the beginning of the year, partly because I didn't really think about hair. I sort of swept dry shampoo and texturizing spray and volume spray and everything, hairspray and anything that I might ever put in my hair into one category. And I've kind of been thinking, well, I still have sprays and mousses and stuff for my hair, so I'm not allowed to repurchase a texturizing spray, even though the Dirty Spray was technically my only texturizing spray. And that's fine with me. I'm starting to really get into the groove of my no buy year and feel comfortable with deprivation. Deprivation is such a strong word to use for not having a texturizing spray in one's collection, but you guys know what I mean. Anyway, when I ordered the Drunk Elephant Serum, I jumped at the chance to acquire a mini of a texturizing spray because I have grown to realize through my love of the dirty spray and various other things that texturizing spray is my favorite kind of hair product. A dry texture spray, something that's meant to be used in dry hair, and that's designed to create grit. And that is exactly what this is. It's the Moroccanoil dry texture spray, and it performs so well. It's what I have in my hair right now, and look at that. I washed my hair yesterday. This is first day hair, and I don't have my shampoo anymore that has the clay in it. That's gone. So it was just like regular silkifying shampoo. And not only that, but I had a little sample packet of a mask, like a deep conditioning hair mask, and I used it last night too. So usually when I wash my hair with a boring regular shampoo and use a mask, it's flat and silky and baby fine for a day or two, and there's pretty much nothing that I can do to make it gritty again. The dirty spray does help with that. That was why I loved it, because it made it feel dirty like second day hair. But I'm not even sure that it helped this much. Like, look at that. Look what it's doing. And maybe it's not crazy to you guys, but to me, for first day hair to be behaving in this glorious way where it's just like holding its shape like this and like living its best life. When I ordered my sunscreen, my replacement Perricone MD sunscreen, like 2 weeks after the Drunk Elephant one, this was still a point perk and I got it again. So I have 2 minis of it. One is near to finished and one is unopened. That's this one. I don't think I love it more than the dirty spray because the dirty spray was my everything, but I'm very, very impressed. The one thing that I don't like about it is the smell. It's got kind of this fresh, like water perfume smell, and that's just the exact opposite of the kind of perfume that I like. But the smell does dissipate, and it's like very mattifying, very texturizing, very dry. It does absolutely everything it says. It genuinely blew me out of the water. It's a good product. That is it. Thank you so much for watching this brief favorites video. Favorites, most of which were in my collection at the beginning of 2018. If you have any favorites, rediscovered favorites from your collection, things that you were loving in the month of May that weren't brand new, just newly your favorites, please let me know what they are. Leave those in the comment section down below. And whatever you have on your plate this week, don't forget to take good care of yourself so that you can be the most effective version of yourself as you do your work in the